I recall a few years ago, we had a hackathon at the company, and we finished pretty late. We finished around 12 in the evening. And on my way back home, because it was so late, I ordered a cab. And the cab arrived, I jump into the cab, and the guy begins to do some small talk. So he asked me, oh, what do you do for a living? I tell him, well, I do analytics. So I work as a data scientist in the past, and now I do help people to do analytics. And he told me, oh, you know what? I also keep some analytics about my business. And I was really surprised because, well, it's a taxi driver. You're not actually expecting that. But I told him, oh, could you please tell me more? What do you do? And then he said, well, I keep this spreadsheet in which I look over the year what events we have in the city, say like we have a technical fair or we have the Oktoberfest. I live here in Munich, so there's Oktoberfest. The summer, the winter, party time, the weekends, that sort of thing. So I keep all those events in my spreadsheet, and I can calculate how much I will do on a weekly basis, depending on how many hours I do. So I can be really efficient managing my time and how I can distribute my effort. And I was pretty impressed. I mean, this guy knew about regression analysis, and he had some curves and charts and some understanding of statistics. And then I was really impressed because then I realized many businesses could actually benefit from this, and not only big enterprise businesses, but small businesses, like the little guy. And I think what deters many people to jump into the advanced analytics business or the regression analysis, which is what I want to talk about today, is the perception that this is very complicated math. And indeed, if you do things by hand, it might be complicated. But if you use a tool like a spreadsheet, then it might be not that hard. You just need to compile the data, know where to click, and then you have the results. And obviously, you need to be able to interpret your results. So what I want to talk about today is how to implement regression analysis. What is regression analysis? Because that's the base of understanding how you can do predictions in your business. So let's take a look at it. When you're doing this predictive analysis, you have to understand what are the factors that influence the variable that you want to predict. In his particular case, in the case of this taxi driver, was how much revenue he was about to do in the next week. And you also have to discard the things that are not important, because sometimes you might include variables in your analysis that are not relevant to the problem at hand. Another thing that is really important is to understand what is the interaction between the different factors. See, it might be that one variable explains all the variables, so you can just eliminate that. Like on the weekends, in the evening, you know there's going to be a party, so you probably don't want to include also parties in your case because, well, you are having a variable that explains the other variable. So you have some redundancy there, and you can simplify your analysis. And most importantly, you have to have a certain level of understanding of your business to understand what are the variables that are truly important in your analysis. So before we jump into how would you actually do this regression analysis in practice, I want you to understand what is the basics, what is the theory behind what you're doing there. What is the dependent variable? The dependent variable is that we want to measure. In the case of the taxi driver, it's the revenue that he wants to achieve next week, next month. What are the independent variables? Well, those are the variables that you use to predict what is going to happen with the dependent variable. So the dependent variable, the revenue, depends on the independent variables. That's the day of the week, the hour, the number of events in the city. The independent variables don't depend on anything else. They are just, independent from each other. As we mentioned before, if you realize that one of these independent variables have interdependencies among them, probably you want to eliminate the one that depends on the other one. Say, for instance, obviously on the weekends, there are going to be parties, so you might eliminate the fact that there are parties and just use the weekend as your independent variable. In the next video, we're going to show you how to visualize this, which you could do, for instance, in Excel, and how can you use this visualization to make your first prediction?